Preston McCall here. How do you get inspired to make art? How do you find creative foreplay to come up with some new energy to move your art forward? I get asked this question frequently, and it always puzzled me as it was never something they taught in art school. I guess they thought if you paid your tuition, you would get inspired. Seriously, my art school education did surround me with some interesting faculty who talked about making art all the time, and the art history classes certainly helped as well. I felt upon deciding that I really did want to become a painter and knew in my heart that was the way I wanted to go. I remember one day as a junior, I asked one of my professors if I could visit his studio to see what he was working on. Kindly, he invited me over, and it seemed like an important step. I walked into the smell of oil paints and immediately saw a large 6-foot wide realistic figure painting of a couple of people sitting on a couch. It really fooled me. For a second, I thought they were real, as it really did hoodwink me. We talked about painting and my new enthusiasm at his ability to paint realistically. I was hooked. His being able to handle the craft of painting so well really impressed me. I wondered if I could ever achieve that level of proficiency and immediately wanted to try. My ability to draw the figure was somewhat more skilled than when I started art school 3 years earlier, but I knew there was much more than that, with color, lighting, and being able to just work out the materials. Tom, my professor, was one of numerous other instructors in the program whom I'd been exposed to in many other directions in what work I might want to pursue. Some were then abstract painters and some were playing around with pop art. Tom introduced me to William Bailey, who actually came to speak at our school from a grant from Hallmark Cards, a loyal supporter of our department. William Bailey ran the graduate program at Yale and had been one of Tom's mentors at Indiana University, where he went to graduate school. I liked his work, but it was just a bit rigid for my taste. Tom's work was very inspiring. His figures were well rendered, and there was always an edge to the scene. I began to see that it was not just if one could handle the craft of realistic painting, but more importantly, I began to see it was more about what was painted. I immediately fell under some spell of wanting to make my serious work a narration, a scene with some oblique and slightly personal story. 50 years later, I see I made a good choice, as I still love to paint these narrative pieces and consider them to be my best work. Over the years, I rummaged through museums, galleries, art history books, and other artists' studios. I saw images that intrigued me. Even when I produced a huge number of landscapes that mostly sold in Santa Fe, I was still in the back of my head thinking about my crazy narratives. From my association through showroom window painting, I got to know many car dealers who wanted realistic paintings of cars. I certainly had gasoline in my blood, and growing up in my father's business, and appreciated the odd designs of some beautiful automobiles, I was interested. I painted some 50 of these and sold most of them. They were hard to do as they have to look correct with the details. I researched the Pontiac advertising illustrations I remembered seeing as a teen and found an artist named Art Fitzpatrick. He had some incredible illustrations of mostly General Motors cars in the 60s. I was inspired. I was really inspired. My landscapes were inspired by another professor I had in art school, Bob Sudlow. I would go over to his studio behind his house and talk about painting. He made his own beer and always offered me a glass. I loved his spirit toward going out and being mesmerized with nature. Bob had actually built a good career selling his paintings and gave me many little tips on how galleries function. Years later, I discovered from road trips through the Southwest the miraculous country with desert, mountains, and a majestic peacefulness. I was not intrigued by the buildings or architecture, but moreover, the skies, trees, the feeling of wind, and certainly the color erosion of the rock formations. Discovering Utah was one of my favorite landscapes. I snapped many pictures and made numerous quick sketches as my traveling companion drove along the long highway. I painted a few and found them intriguing and certainly a lot easier to do than figurative or automobile paintings. It is hard not to make a cloud look right, or some trees or some mountains. Today I look at the internet and download pictures of paintings that I feel are interesting. I have to admit, just looking at them, I include these videos. It inspires me. Seeing passages which jump out or compositions which break every rule of all of that baloney about how to make a painting causes me to realize that creativity really is something from deep inside and really does not follow many rules. So how do you get inspired? Simply look at other art. Look at your art. Look at art that says something to you. Look to other artists. Go to galleries and museums. Read about artists and the many articles and books on art history. It's not just about your ability to paint, but more importantly, it is about what you're painting and how they tie into your previous efforts in life. Enough for now. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons as we appreciate your support. Look forward to the Naked Artist exposure videos and feel free to contact me if you have any comments or questions. Thank you and keep painting.